Okay, I am a little late at recording this in that I've already done the job. Had a lot of people asking me how did you mount the PSC pump? The reservoir is the biggest thing. The pump, of course, only goes in one spot, but the reservoir, you have a problem in the instructions. It tells you they want the reservoir above and within 16 inches of the pump. And there's pretty much no way. If you go from the factory location is here and the pump is right here, and the new reservoir, the hoses are coming out of the bottom of the pump, so the only way to get it so that this is down feeding is to get it up above the back side of the pump. If you order the kit from PSC, it comes with all these hoses, really a high-grade hose, and it comes with the brackets. It comes with pretty much everything you need. It also comes with a different pulley here and a new belt. This is the new belt they send you. And as you can see, this is where power steering pump mounts up just like the other one, just off. It's perhaps the wheel's a little smaller, but other than that, it's in the same spot. You got all these nice fittings to hook the new ones up to on both. To do this job, you have to remove the air box. You have to be able to take a belt off. I mean, it's really not that tough. You have to be able to take this pulley off. So it's not asking you to do really all that much work to get it on. You have to splice this hose into the hose that comes from the pump. Now what I ended up doing with everything is you hear a lot of people about getting air bubbles and stuff in the system and having problems. PSC also wants you to run a particular oil, a power steering fluid, a SWEPCO. I got some of that. I can tell you that there's other people who have done better videos on it and all of that, but this is what you need. And you probably need about 2.5 of them for the system, somewhere near that, maybe 3 is closer. What I did is they recommend using the mineral. They have a flushing fluid. So when you run that through, and you know it's been good and flushed, and you got all of the old fluid out, what I ended up doing was then I started putting the new fluid in and let it run into the system. So I had to basically had somebody stand here, and I used it with the old reservoir. So I flushed everything with the old reservoir, and flushed thing with the old pump, and then ran the new fluid into everything using that, so that the box and everything was all full already of the new fluid before I took the old pump off. So then I took the old pump off, and then so the only fluid I really at that point had left to replace was the fluid in the lines going to the pump and the reservoir. Before putting the pump on, I actually mounted the pump, but then what I did is before hooking any hoses up, I used a funnel just through here and a hose, and I filled the pump back up while turning the wheel by hand until all the bubbles stopped coming out of before attaching this hose. So there were no air bubbles in the system when I started up, and I was expecting some. I was expecting that it would go down some, but I guess if you're really thorough, what I'm telling you is you won't have any air bubbles. Maybe a little bit. It might have dropped 1/4 of an inch in the reservoir after doing it that way. A lot of people get air trapped in their pumps and hurt them. So this is where I mounted it to get it into the position that they recommend. and I just got a small bit and drilled through this battery holder here. I've seen other people do it online. This is plugged in there. You just move that and then drill a couple of nice holes through this, through the edge of the battery container. And I put washers on the other side. And so I put one hole here and one back there and bolted it down. It hasn't moved. It's been there a couple of weeks. Disadvantage to that location is obviously it's above the exhaust manifold, so it's going to be getting some heat off that. My hood happens to have holes punched in the top of it, so the heat doesn't get trapped there. Heat flows through this system pretty well with the extra holes I put in the hood. It looks like little chimney smokestacks in the wintertime. You can just see the heat coming out of the holes. But if you don't do that, you might have a problem. I haven't had any problem with it running too hot. Now, of course, I haven't run it in the summer yet, and we just come off an entire month where the average temperature was at like 2 below zero. So, yeah, no overheating problems, but I don't know. I can't tell you if that's the way it's going to be in 90 or 100 degrees or anything like that. I did see a lot of other people online have it mounted in this location, and it's the only location I could find where I could mount it that would put it up high enough and also put it within the right range of the pump. Now, there was some other people I saw online who used a bracket on this side of the engine to mount it up over here, just using a kind of a bracket like the one I have my air compressor on, and then they ran the hose over the top and down into the pump. The only thing I could say about that is you're still going to have an uphill downhill situation, because I looked at it and there's no way really to make it all downhill over to the pump if you mount it over there. And so, I mean, that's a way you could do it. The other system I've seen people mount it off of a bracket they make that mounts right here, and then they run the hose over and down and around to it, which would be a possibility. It just would mean you'd have to remove that every time you went to work on change a belt or do anything on the front of your engine. So I opted against doing that. So anyway, I hope that's helpful to you. I'll say that my PSC kit didn't come with instructions. There was a whole flyer in there on what not to do, where not to mount it, but I don't know if there is any JK specific instructions. I think it's just fairly simple, and they just expect you to be able to figure out if you can remove a pump and put a pump back on and put a couple of bolts in and mount it and trim a couple of hoses, you should be good. Total time was probably, I work slow. It probably took me three and a half hours or so to do it, but I always measure everything twice and all of that. And I hate it cutting a hose too short and then trying to get it longer. So I've done that enough in my life. I just take my time and go slow now. So anyhow, a couple guys asked for a video. Here it is. Hope that helps you out. And thanks.